welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
I'm Peter, also known as Mono Whiteboarder.
And I'm Cord.
I've got you both on to talk about You Make the Pack. This is a super fun activity that we run in the Discord, but I think it's also fun to just run with any kind of group, like just a group of friends, one card at a time. We're trying to fill up a pack of cards, not do a whole set, but rather than all 15 cards at the same time or trying to give us one card, we'll get a bunch of those, we'll vote on a card, lock that in, then we'll go to slot 2. Everyone submit your card for slot 2, then we'll lock that in, and so on and so forth. And we've done a bunch of variations for that, and we're about to do a new variation for that. We don't actually know the variation yet, but that's what we're going to be talking through this episode. Rather than going in completely wide open, submit any card, everyone this time around for You Make the Pack submitted a card and a pitch for the rest of the pack. I guess before we get totally into that, I also wanted to recap some of the other ones that we had done in the past to kind of get a sense for like what kinds of themes you could either stumble into or purposefully go into.
The first You Make the Pack ever we did was Food Hell World. So it was this food themed pack.
Yeah.
If you can imagine a set with a bunch of food in it, but then the setting was this kind of underworld landscape.
Yeah. As more Martica dice in a Kuldakar style, like a devilish cook.
The Underworld Cookbook.
Yeah, exactly. That could have been the name of the set.
Yeah. The second pack we did was this kind of like declining Clockwork Empire, dubbed Gwemhill, which is also the first place on the server I joined making cards when this was happening.
Ooh, personal lore. I like this.
Do we have a name for like Gwemhill heads? Is that the
Gwem
name?
heads?
Gwem heads?
I'm changing my username.
After going to Gwemhill, we went a different direction. We went Turbo Design Cube. This was like a rapid fire. Normally these take about, a month to do?
And a half.
And the Turbo Design Cube was like 2 weeks or something. So this is like post a card, next day's voting, next day's posting a card very fast.
Yeah.
But it didn't have the traditional structure of like a draft booster or a play booster. So just tons of rares.
Following that up, we had a pack that ended up being a big crossover between Ravnica and Lorwyn. Most of the cards seemed to be set on Lorwyn, but there was a lot of Ravnican influence in flavor text. And Jace, just like Canon Magic. Suddenly, Jace.
Yeah. That is kind of how every set is these days.
Yeah.
I think that's also our only time we've done a throwback pack to a Canon Magic world.
After that, we went back to these custom worlds. We went to the beach that makes you old. And it was also our first play booster design pack.
Haunted beach pack. I think it's something that would be hard to make 300 cards for, but hey, you can make 15.
Finding art got progressively more and more tricky. Yeah. But 15 arts, that's pretty easy to do.
Finally, we returned back to Gwemhill recently for our first sequel pack. And this one was decided thematically ahead of time that we were going to do a return to, I believe it was at least one of the packs we'd done before, but we didn't specify which one until the first card came in. It pretty quickly went in the Gwemhill direction.
It started to be clear that people liked that structure. They liked a little bit more direction, which is something that is not what I thought of originally. I thought like the Ouija board, like we don't know where we're going, is maybe the exciting part, but no, people want to make a well-formed, good-looking, realistic pack. Like it makes them happy when that comes together.
Something that interesting that happened was, I think the Back to Gwemhill pack was the first pack that you didn't lead, Tim, or maybe it was the second pack that you didn't lead. Yeah, Ignited took the lead on it, I think.
Yeah.
And Ignited was extremely structured. They literally were like, this is slot 4, and you are designing an uncommon. This is slot 11. This is the wild card.
Yeah.
And that had some pros and cons. I think people really liked all the cards being the same, so you weren't like something that happened in the big general You Make the Packs is you would like design a rare, and it would be like the second or third card, and people weren't ready to commit to the rare, so they'd wait it out. They'd want to throw a common in there. So having that structure, I think, helped a little bit, and that people weren't trying to force a rare in. They're just like, here's another common.
Yeah, with pack 5, there was an amount of these are the potential slots that would fit into a normal pack, but it wasn't like this is the final slot that we have. This is just like what could go here if it were a normal pack.
Yeah, so this time around, Modern Whiteboarder, I think it was your idea to just like let people pitch what they think the pack should be. And then I think kind of a crucial thing about You Make the Pack is you might have a good idea for a mechanic or a direction for a pack to go, but you also have to deliver a card that makes people excited. Like it can't just be the concept. It can't just be a mechanic. You have to give us a card that we want to lock in.
You're trying to hook people with your card, but with the pitch added onto it, you can make your hooks a little bit clearer. So what would happen occasionally is you'd have such an open-ended hook, people didn't know what the direction would be, and that would lose you some votes. Now you can have a very open-ended hook, and people can see where you're thinking, can see what you're pointing to. So I'm curious, I haven't looked too closely, I'm curious who took advantage of that and who made more of just a traditional card.
Alrighty, well maybe we'll start jumping into these. The first one in here from Crafted Lava is True, longtime contributor to Beacon. No young people, only old folks. This is kind of like a maybe art first pitch, but also maybe, there's thematic things if you're dealing with old age or dealing with people with a lot of wisdom, let's say. The art for the first card here is this looks like a white-bearded, long-bearded dwarf in the woods, like a druid or something like that. They've got a couple birds. They've got some other animals around them. And the card is Elder of the Grove, 3 and a green for a 3/3. For creature dwarf druid at uncommon. Crucially, they didn't make it rare to allow for the rare to get made later. Whenever you tell a tale, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. You tell a tale whenever a creature you control boasts, goes on an adventure, or you finish a saga. The flavor here. Hurp. You see, there once was a time where mushrooms could hum.
So you get a 4 mana 3/3 here.
Yeah.
That if you can complete one of these conditions of boasting, casting an adventure spell, or completing a saga, you get a land into the battlefield. And so here's like a very classic batching. Here's some hooks. Here's some thematic things to tie in.
Exactly. It's the type of thing where like 2 of these things you don't normally see in a set. So we're probably like, if we go with this pack, we're probably going to have some people designing cards with boast and adventures. You might not see a saga in this pack, just because sagas are the type of thing you might just show up a couple of them in a set, right? Not necessarily part of this pitch that that would have to show up.
The theme is very much art based. It's not tied to the mechanical theme, so it's almost pitching 2 different things. It's like, let's have an all old person arted set, and then also my card has its own pitch tied to it, which is, hey, you're probably going to design some commons with boast, you're going to design some common adventure cards, and maybe there's going to be like a unique slot dedicated to sagas. And then for all you people who want to find old wizard art, this is the pack for you.
There are a lot of like old wizard pictures. So I think you're set there. Unlike the beach that makes you old.
Everybody here already went to that plane. Now they're back and they're old.
Oh. It's the sequel back to the beach that makes you old.
The sequel back.
All right, yeah.
There is a mechanical through line between like the flavor of old people and telling a tale. But it's definitely a little bit looser. Which is nice. Lots of room to play around in. Could you imagine seeing a card with both boast and adventure in a pack at common or maybe uncommon?
I guess you could boast to cast your adventure.
Boast to recast an adventure.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
To look to the left of this card to see what happens when you boast.
That would be kind of fun as far as a design point. So the thing that does work for me here is boast is an attacking mechanic and adventure is a spells mechanic.
Yeah.
So as far as like two things that normally most designers are thinking about putting in their set. Those are two mechanics on different ends of the spectrum. The idea of a card that boasts and then you cast the adventure again, very much a flavor win. Very neat.
Alrighty. What's next?
Next up is Auxiliary Otter, formerly Oreo Orca, with Bar Cube rules. And this isn't Bar Cube rules as in like, yay, Bar Cube. This is the rules of Bar Cube, which is no tokens, no counters, no shuffling. It's not a bar theme, just limits in that style of cube. The card to go with it is Sigil of the Lake, 1 and a blue for a legendary enchantment with flash. When this enchantment enters or is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. And then it has 1 blue, sacrifice this enchantment. So you end up with a legendary enchantment here that's kind of like a Chromatic Star style, Ichor Wellspring style card.
Yeah.
ETB dies trigger, I guess, are the same, both drawing a card. And then it has an activate ability to help enable that dies trigger.
You could forcibly sacrifice it. You'd probably imagine there are ways to sacrifice, but if you don't have one of those, you can at least force it through by paying.
I assume the legendary part of this is, especially at common, you can have multiple copies of this in your deck to get that sacrifice by just playing your next Sigil of the Lake. Right?
Yeah.
Your first one is a 2-mana draw 1, but your second one is a 2-mana draw 2.
Have either of you played Bar Cube before? The idea of Bar Cube being you're at a bar, you don't have that much space to keep track of things. You don't want to manage a bunch of tokens. It's just here's cards and you can keep track most everything in your head.
It's a fun restriction. It kind of pushes you toward like away from certain things that are complicated, from certain things that don't work that well. But it does remove tools. Like it's doesn't add anything. It's just a restriction.
Mm-hmm.
And the inclusion of a common here makes me wonder if part of the goal is to still have collated style where, is, I don't know, 8 to 11-ish commons, the 3 to 5-ish uncommons and 1 or 2 rares kind of thing. Or if it just happened to be a common because that's the card that Auxiliary Otter came up with.
I think having, like, multiple copies of cards in something like a Bar Cube where you're trying to limit the complexity is probably helpful.
As a designer, the idea of having to design around this restriction is a restriction breeds creativity kind of thing. Especially with something like no tokens and no counters. Those are like fundamental parts of almost any Magic set. There are players who specifically like those things. Can I cater those to those players and still meet the criteria of a Bar Cube?
I was about to say, I think I like the ones that give us a flavor to work with, flavor restriction, rather than a more mechanical one. But then I went and was looking at mine, and I was just like, wait, no, I did both. Both flavor and mechanics, but more, It was a little bit of both, but...
Well, why don't we get to yours next, then?
Yeah. My pitch from Cord Gwemhead is... Beacon of the Pack, a monocolor-leaning pack inspired by beacons and creation. The pitched card was Beacon of the Moors, land beacon. It enters tapped, and you can tap it for black mana, or for 2 black mana, tapping it and tapping X untapped beacons you control. You can amass zombies X, which is you create a zombie army if you don't control one, and then put that many +1/+1 counters on a zombie army you control.
So kind of the Cloud Post Locust vibes here of I want to get all the beacons and then do cool things because I control so many beacons. Yeah,
that's the mechanical hook of beacons. You wanna go see all the beacons.
I like it. That's fun.
And of course, the obvious touch on this place that we are all talking in is called Beacon of Creation. So the pack is themed around that thematically.
Did you have an idea of where people would take this when you were pitching it? Or were you just like, here is something You all figure it out.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot more of, here is something.
Yeah.
Where I would take it is not where it's going to go, and I want that.
Hooking on a land seems like a fun intro. I want my card to be very open-ended. I want people to be interested in my pitch. There's still a lot of space in the pack for me to design cards and put things in. Like this beacon land environment. There is kind of a flavor connection here because land sub-themes I feel like are very iconic flavorfully. You have gates, locusts,
Caves and deserts.
Perfect examples. Like I feel like when you add the land subtype on there, it's usually evoking some strong flavor in the set.
Cool. Yeah. This seems like a challenging, like having enough beacons seems like a challenging thing to do. So it's maybe also the kind of thing where, hey, let's get ourselves in trouble in the first 8 cards and then have to figure out how we make this set work in the last half, which seems to be part of what people find fun.
There's also the whole second like criteria here. We have the beacons. We know what beacons look like. What is creation? What are we? How do we explore that idea?
Yeah. All right, next up from Juliet, we've got the Snorf pack. Here's a mechanic. Let's make a pack from a set featuring it. What can we do with face down and morph, but with a 3/2 or bigger twist? And then the card here, Juvenile Emperors. 1 and a black for a 3/3 creature penguin at common. It has Snowdrift for 4 and a black. You may cast this face down for 3 generic mana as a 2/2 snow creature with this gets +1/+0 for each snow creature or artifact you control. Then you can, like Morph, you can turn it face up anytime for 4 and a black. When this is turned face up, target creature can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures until end of turn. 3 mana, 3/3 with a attacking downside. But it also has this kind of like super morph and then a flip trigger.
This is like fully in on the mechanic side. Here's a mechanic. What does a set featuring this mechanic look like? I think using morph was kind of interesting, or a morph-alike was an interesting choice because we have seen a lot of morph-alikes before. You have Megamorph, we have Disguise, now this Snowdrift. Snow is very polarizing, I'd say, among custom designers. Some are really into it, and some not so much. I think the polarization was intentional, though.
Like pun-wise?
Yeah. I feel... Well, okay. Wait. That's too telling.
I wish I was that good.
No, both Snow and Morph have been like historically like very polarizing mechanics, and so combining the two of them makes for a bold pitch. I honestly would say my favorite part of this pitch is the penguin type, though as discussed a couple weeks ago, should penguins be birds is also a very important question.
Yeah. This version of Morph does have appeal to me. I get the kind of play reasons for Disguise, and like it worked well enough in that format. That format was pretty good. But this feels like you could actually do explosive things with it, which has not really ever been true with Morph. Like, I could have an exciting board of like 4 of these snorfed up creatures that are each giving each other, or did they give themselves as well?
This gets +1/+0 for each snow creature or artifact you control.
Oh, so it counts itself. So it's like a 3/2 naturally.
It's a 3/2 naturally, and then for each other snow creature, or I assume snow artifact, it gets bigger.
Kind of like a rat deck. It feels kind of a little bit like that to me. This is maybe in a way sort of like classic You Make the Pack, where here's just like a really loud mechanical statement. And if it gets enough votes, well, I guess we're doing this now.
The one area I struggle a little bit here is like knowing exactly where I go. Like the hooks here are snow and morph. How do I build off snow and morph? Well, I make more snow and morph things.
Yeah, what's the when do I make something snow or not? Like the penguin itself is not a snow creature.
Hmm.
Only when it's snorfed up is it snow.
Which could be some of the intrigue of the thing of like, oh, if I pick this one and then I add another like crazy mechanic on top of it, now I have an environment. How do we combine Snowdrift, Snorf, and also, I don't know, Bloodthirst or something?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. You feel
The
like it's too difficult? You're not that interested in it?
the mechanical idea I'm just like cooking with right here is that there are no snowlands here, uh, or that snowlands don't matter,
Yeah.
because
Discard,
snowdrift
yeah.
creatures don't care about lands or snow enchantments or snow planeswalkers or snow battles. I want to get back to snow battles at some point, but
Snow battles.
yeah, just like trying to figure out where to go with this pack, other than
Yeah.
more of what is presented is
All right.
feels a little bit difficult.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, the next one's also kind of unthemed.
Yeah, the next pack, No Pitch by Xena, Distraction Incarnate, is Burst Bloom. It is an enchantment for 1 red mana with cumulative upkeep 1. At end of turn, target opponent gains control of this enchantment. When you sacrifice this enchantment, it deals damage to you equal to twice the number of age counters on it.
Little hot potato.
Yeah. And it's this is an uncommon of note. So you could have a couple of these kicking around.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so this one doesn't have a pitch, it's just a card. So part of what we're trying to figure out is like, what does this imply about a pack?
That said, slapping cumulative slapping cumulative slapping cumulative upkeep on your card is a pretty like bold statement that may not require
Yeah.
pitch. Because like if you're signing up for cumulative upkeep, like
Yeah,
that's a challenge in and of itself. What are we
yeah.
doing with this pack? Where are we building around it? Is this another cube pack? Is this a one-off cumulative upkeep card?
Hmm.
Or are we trying to design an environment in which this mechanic can come back?
This card screams cube to me.
Hmm.
If I'm going into slot 2 with this card as my only pitch, I'm thinking cube designs. And I think part
Okay.
of it also might be all the flowers giving me Lotus vibes. And,
Oh, okay.
Lotus is what you see in, vintage cube.
I think there's also a multiplayer element here. At end of
Yeah.
turn, target opponent gains control of this enchantment. This is the kind of thing that, like in 1v1, there's not a super interesting play pattern because my opponent plays this turn 1, they pass it to me, I take a damage on my upkeep. If they pay it later, I'm probably still just taking a damage on my upkeep. Like it's probably just a ping. In a 1v1 environment. In a multiplayer environment, you can kind of talk to people. Hey, if I give this to you, will you keep paying the upkeep cost? And then we can maybe drop like a cumulative upkeep 6 or 7
Hmm.
on Brad over here.
Yeah, because the penalty is really slight in the beginning.
Yep. Could have like a team theme here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Next up is Ignited Soul. With their theme was all cards must use the same artist.
Hmm.
They provided an artist link here. All art from this artist, Dao Lei, and they provided a link to the artist because you're all going to be using the same art, so it'll have this cohesive style.
Hmm.
And their card to go with it, Whisked Away Princess, 1 and a white for a 3/2 human noble. It has kind of like a storybook frame here, the adventure frame. So on the left, you have a card Draconic Flight, 1 red for an enchantment aura with Mantle. If this creature isn't enchanted, you may cast a copy of this aura, enchanting this creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and gains flying. And then the creature itself is a 3/2 with vigilance, and this creature can't attack alone.
Hmm.
And then the flavor text here, another hook. I don't think we're in Ardenvale anymore. So this card, you're going to cast it, and you're going to get a 2-mana 3/2 with Vigilance and can't attack alone. And then later on, you can enchant it if it's not already enchanted using its Mantle ability. And then it gets +1/+0 and gains flying. And then the art here shows like a princess-looking character riding a dragon.
Yeah, a little bit of a monstrous-y exhaust sort of mechanic here. Hey, a thing you can mostly just do one time. Yeah, you get to pay extra mana in later, and they can't attack alone. Yeah, princess, noble. What else could you want?
Using this artist, as we've been reading this card, I've been scrolling through their art station, and we've got lots of fan art, which is very beautiful.
Yeah, it looks like they maybe did illustration for Runeterra.
Yeah, they did some Runeterra illustration.
Yeah.
So lots of figuring out how to use the art that we have here in a more magic-themed way.
Yeah, our other pack was old dudes with beards, righteous old bearded guys. This is like pretty anime ladies.
Yeah.
And then some other assorted characters too.
You kind of have this like cohesive world because it's the same artist. You have like similar characters throughout. You see similar creatures in some of the artwork. So like there's a world kind of constructed here artistically that you can try and represent mechanically in cards.
There's, I don't know, maybe 100 pictures to pick from, somewhere in that ballpark. You can all look at it together and say, oh, here's the little cat with a mask on hanging from a little rope. Here's my take on that card. Oh, that didn't get voted in. Okay, do you mind if I try that? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, here's my version of that card. Or everyone picks, like, here's the favorite one we got to get a card for. So we got multiple people pitching a card with the same art. You know, that could make for a memorable experience.
I think the interesting thing that could happen is like two people using the frame to cut out different halves of a piece of art. And so it's like one art gets introduced twice in different ways.
I think the end goal of getting a pack that looks like a real Magic pack that you could open, I think using this pitch, you're very likely to get there. And so it's very likely to look cohesive. And I think also taking on like some of the work of like, hey, I found this artist. They have a really like vast collection. There's some diversity here. There's some character looking shots. There's some action shots. There's like, we can get different permanents out of it. Taking on some of that work up front so that then the people working on the project can kind of, it's one less step they have to go through. Pretty crafty.
Yeah. All right. Next up from Il Diavolo Reste Rosa. This is another no pitch one. We've got Sacred Spreader, a green mana for a 1/1 creature fungus at common. It has Amalgamate 1. When this creature dies, amass the Divine Mycelium 1. A legendary green fungus god army with vigilance. Well, I paid off to not read this card ahead of time. Those are pretty funny. And then for 4 mana, 2 and 2 hybrid Celestia mana, return this creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you control a fungus with power 4 or greater. So 1 mana, 1/1 that brings another 1/1 vigilance. It's a fungus god army, so it's an army, which means that if you amalgamate multiple times, you'll probably, rather than legend ruling, you'll just get a bigger and bigger mushroom god. And then for 4 mana, you can bring this back, but only if you have a big fungus. So probably if you have a mushroom god.
This is very throwback, classic, just like big splashy mechanic of
Yeah.
If you're into fungus god mechanic, then you're gonna want to vote for this card.
I'm actually most intrigued by the hybrid ability here on this common.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a nice hook of like, yeah, this is a common with a hybrid ability, which means there's going to be a good amount of multicolor or monocolor in this pack, depending.
Yeah. Hybrid famously good in like original Eldraine for allowing you to play like either a monocolor or close to monocolor deck.
Do you want to create the Amalgamate 5 card Is that where you're headed? Are you trying to then pair a mechanic? What mechanic would you see alongside your amalgamate mechanic? Are you just trying to design that sweet fungus tribal card?
I'm thinking, what can I design outside of green white fungus god in this set? Like, am I able to design, I don't know, the like mono black anti-myconid like spray that removes counters from things?
Shrinking it. Okay.
Yeah.
Or like a rare like black white enchantment that says you can't put counters on things.
The anti-fungus god section of the
Yeah,
of
of
the
the
world.
world.
Are fungus gods benevolent, like default? If you hear that there's a fungus god in town, do you feel like that's a benevolent deity, or
They're like true neutral.
are you thinking it's like hive mind? True neutral. They're just doing their thing, which might be scarier.
Whether that thing murders everything or doesn't murder everything is not it's subject to the whims of good and evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this also feels like it could be one of 5 factions. You know, you still have plenty of room to do other things in a set. Doesn't have to all be fungus world. It doesn't all have to be god themed or whatever. So, do you like this mechanic? And also, do you want something pretty open? Because this is another vote for like an open pack.
Next, Red Bay. This is the story pack. Each card voted in will succeed the previous card in telling of a story. The card pitched is Bolstered Friendship. 1 and a white for a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. You gain 2 life. You never told me about your father. You never asked. Ortilgar frowned, then sighed. Well, will you tell me more about him now?
Wow.
Seems. We're just going on a walk.
What I really enjoy about this card is it's like, I want to do a story pack where we're all linking together a story and there's one big thread. And then it's literally the opening line of a story. You know, it's literally like, here's the story pitch that I want to start with. This was heavily inspired by Ludos from their Mocktober submissions. Ludos did 31 cards that all had a connected story, and they also did their own drawings for all of them, which are very cool. I think Red Bay in the You Make the Pack actually put the first card that Ludos did and a link to it in the Discord so that you can actually go through and look at all of them. And then creating that cohesive story. Did you guys ever play the game where it's like each person has to do a sentence of the story and you like go around in a circle and everyone adds on a sentence?
I did that a lot growing up camping. We do it around the fire. Always be like a scary story. It would end up ridiculous.
Yep. I always enjoyed those. What was your strat? Were you one of the people that's just like, this story makes too much sense, I gotta throw in just a total monkey wrench? Or were you trying to build off the previous person?
I tried to like build off the next one into some form of climax, but then, you know, things would always go off the rails regardless.
Yep. There's like a natural balance that the story pack will have of, if you want to pitch your story, you can't just like in the campfire game, you basically have free reign and you can say whatever you want and then no one can stop you and you can just screw over the person next to you.
Yeah, you can kind of quote unquote ruin the story. Yeah.
Exactly. The story pack, because there's this voting structure, it would be much harder to just completely derail the story. And if you did, you'd have to have a very, very good like pitch or reason to derail the story, which is almost like could be more enticing to those people of like, I have to like earn my chaos, basically.
Yeah, you can throw a twist into the story, but doing so requires like coming up with a good card and something people want to do, I guess.
I think the story pack pitch definitely speaks to me in a lot of how the Gwemhill packs did. Like, Gwemhill was very much a pack that kind of grew on the flavor and the story, told both through mechanic and like flavor text and art and stuff.
I think,
Someone introducing what Ex Machina, right?
Yeah.
And story growing off of that.
Yeah, I think there's going to be an interesting challenge if you would pursue the story pack. The challenge becomes like finding the way to tell the story, but also fit the card into the set, and like ending up with both a coherent story and something that feels like a unique custom Magic, product or potential set is going to be balancing those two things is going to be the tricky part. That's the challenge of it. Is like, if you want to introduce a new mechanic, you can't stray too far away from the story to do that. It would also be interesting if the follow-up card was like the end of, somebody just pitched the end of the story, and then so we had to draw the line between the two, because Red Bay gave us the start here, theoretically. Though I could see people taking that as a challenge, and like, this is the middle of the story. This is just a random conversation two characters were having during the story, but the story is not about this person's father.
Well, if we cut it short, if we cut one card short, there's one clear card that would go after that, and that's the one that watches the end.
The kind of recurring guest in the You Make the Pack packs.
The You Make the Pack-up verse, if you will.
You Make the Pack verse.
Well, we don't want to spiral too hard into the You Make the Pack verse. Our second to last one here was from Caillou, who you can guarantee is going to give us a real thoughtful entry. Trade Wars. In the Trade Wars of Old Sidonis, you take on the role of high-ranking executive in a rapidly declining corporation. The only way to save the company, and more importantly yourself, is to achieve a complete monopoly by eliminating the other three players that stand in your way. Mechanically, that could be a conspiracy-esque multiplayer set focused on evasion, draft matter shenanigans, and battles. That being said, the only mechanics this card establishes are policies and decayed, so open to wherever people want to go. And then Caillou also gave a shout out to Water the Weeds for some help on this design. I'm going to read this card here. It's a battle. Appears to be one-sided, but I'll find out more as I read this card with all of you. It's called Downsizing Initiative. 1 blue-black for battle policy at uncommon. Doesn't have a loyalty amount, so I think we're going to find out what this means as we read. Policies are protected by their controller and cannot be defeated. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to a policy, that creature's controller gains control of it. When Downsizing Initiative enters, create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with Decayed. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life and you draw a card.
Oh.
All right, so before it starts getting handed around Monarch style, when this enters, you get 2 Decayed zombies. Decayed, that's the mechanic where when that creature attacks, it dies at the end of combat, whether or not it took damage. And it can't block as well. So you got 2 kind of very chumpy, crappy zombie tokens that can chump attack if you want to, but are mostly there to be probably sacrificed, including sacrifice to this policy. At the beginning of your end step, you can sack one of those zombies or any other creature. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life and you draw a card, progressing the game a little bit. And then when other people hit it, they get to take the policy from you, but they don't get those free zombies, so if they want to use the policy ability, they have to be sacking maybe more real cards than you did.
This kind of reminds me of that like disinformation campaign style of card. The 3-mana enchantments in blue and black, where they basically drain your opponents a little bit and give you a little bit of card advantage, and kind of epitomize that like blue-black, slowly choking the life out of my opponent kind of strategy. You have the multiplayer hook to delve into if you're open to that idea. And then there's a strong flavor pitch here of like, corporation style, failing businesses for whatever reason, and kind of this like cutthroat corporate world.
Reading this card and looking at all of this, they just want to make a big dumb green creature that says "Trample over battles."
That could make sense. Yeah.
Like, there's definitely lots of places to go with this.
Yeah.
Even without adding mechanics, but my brain is just screaming at me, "Trample over battles."
There we go. The new questing beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think
instead of splash damage on planeswalkers, you got splash damage on battles, which is good multiplayer. You know, this is something a little different from the Monarch. We're going to hand it around so everyone gets a chance to read it, so they're a little more conscious of what the card does. So you could have multiple policies in play. You could hit those instead of hitting your opponents, but maybe some of those policies also, like this one, include life loss or other ways to progress the game.
I think this is scratching your kind of designer brain, designer itch.
Yeah.
That a lot of custom designers have, obviously, because you kind of have to think about what are the requirements of a world where these policies are floating around. I could very easily see like every pack has at least one policy in it. And then, you need creatures to attack the policies. You're going to be defending your own policies. Like the first thing that comes to mind is like policies don't get removed from attacking like a traditional battle. We have less destroy target battle stuff intrinsically in Magic. Do you want to tackle that in the pack? If you don't, our policy sticking around is the end of every game going to have 4 to 5 policies.
Yeah.
And what the mental load of that is going to be on players. Policies eat up a lot of damage without causing damage to the player. So you're going to be looking at longer, probably grindier games, which on top of that is also multiplayer. So there's like all these like bigger, I don't want to say problems, but like kind of caveats you have to think about when you're designing your cards for this pack and what this environment is going to look like, that I think is very appealing for custom Magic designers to have to think about.
Yeah, there's a lot to go off of. This feels, I don't know, like a very fun starting point.
Caillou went a lot deeper on their pitch. Like a lot of the pitches are one sentence, which is kind of what I was expecting. So it was very interesting to see this extremely thought out pitch where it's like, here is the pitch I have for a whole set. What would the pack of this set look like? Here are the open-ended ideas that I'm trying to include. I'm not trying to pin us in too far with my pitch of the set. There's still plenty of space to explore, but I have a very clear thematic idea.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And then...
All right, we got one left.
Yeah, I snuck in here in the final hour with you pick the art, YPTA. The winner of each slot picks the art for the next card, which acts as the inspiration for the next slot's design. So, kind of in a similar vein to Ignited's idea, you're grabbing the art so that people can not do that work. And then, differently though, everyone's designing off of the same art. And the card I picked to go with it was a Kraken token. It's an 8/8 blue Kraken with Gargantuan. This creature can only block creatures with power 6 or greater.
Yeah, one of the fun things we see in the You Make the Packs are the token slot or the punch out slot or whatever, where it's not a regular Magic card, it's something else that would get thrown into a pack like you'd see in a regular Magic pack. And here you're just front loading that.
Yep. My thought being minimize my footprint on the initial card. The least amount of footprint I could think to have was just I'll take the token slot. Nobody has to worry about that. I think we introduced it a couple packs ago with like, let's have a special token slot. They tend not to get a ton of submissions because it's not really what people are engaging with at the time. A lot of times it's like the last 2 or 3 slots. So I was like, oh, I can just take that. We'll have that slot, but not have to have designers for it.
Yeah.
And then I thought the idea of like a reward at the end of every slot would be kind of an interesting retinting of You Make the Pack of like, yes, I got this, and now I get a prize. I get to pick the art that everyone has to go off of.
What happens for the last person? What do they pick?
Oh man, I didn't think about that.
The cover art.
There you go. Yeah, they pick the pack. The
booster pack art.
Yeah, good save, Tim.
There you go.
So wait, you've got like a secret bomb in this submission then, because if this gets picked, you will pick the next art. You could have already picked that new art.
Oh, absolutely. I have not, but I I was like, yeah, if I win, I'm the winner. I get to pick the next art. Pick 2 arts for it.
Is this gonna secretly be a beach that makes you kraken?
Alrighty. Well, that's all of our submissions. By the time this episode goes up, I think the voting will have just finished. Is that right? So maybe what we can do here is tell us how you two voted.
Do I remember?
You don't remember.
Do I remember how I voted?
Maybe Court's gonna, oh, my favorite was this. I gave this a 5. And it's gonna be like, oh no, Court did not give that a 5.
Okay. Well, just go off of your memory. No one will know if you're.
No one will know.
So, yeah.
I think I know what my 2 home run picks were. Of these were my faves.
Yeah.
I really loved Caillou's. I just had to appreciate the work and the hustle that went into that. Of just oh wow, that is a detailed pitch. I have my questions about policies, but those are interesting questions to ask in designing a pack.
Yeah.
Which is a benefit.
The other card I ranked highly was the story pack. I am a big fan of just the general vibe and ideas of a pack that is just one contiguous story.
What are you thinking, Tim, as an outsider, usually not submitting a card? What do you think of these 3 ideas as something to look at the end? Oh, hey, this is where these people got to. What's speaking to you?
I think probably besides those, my 2 favorites are Snorf. And although Beacon of Creation was probably one of the bigger smile ones, I think my other one that I'm interested in is the Bar Cube one. I want to see people design some kind of pared down cards. This individual card doesn't fully get there for me. Maybe that's what's holding me back a little bit about the Bar Cube one. But as a set of restrictions, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Anything else on You Make the Pack? Anything you want to tell people about just You Make the Pack? We'll get to other stuff in a sec.
Just keep your eyes up. If you are interested in You Make the Pack and want to be notified, there's a You Make the Pings role that you can adopt. When this show goes up, we'll probably be working on slot 2. We'll know what the theme is.
Yeah.
And maybe you have something to contribute, some idea for that theme that you can throw in there.
It'll probably still be quite wide open, even though it will have narrowed 90%, that's still, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we could be on snow penguins and then somebody just throws in, something wild on top of that. And now you have to figure out how to bridge snow, snorf, and some other crazy mechanic, gates or something on top of that.
Snow gates.
Yeah. Snow gates. Yeah.
Snow gates. Yeah. Somebody just turns it into an unset.
I mean, we do have the curse of the fire penguin.
There you go. That's what. Well, we had the penguin submission from the last design challenge. We've got this snorf penguin, and then fire penguin. That's our penguin precedent.
February is Penguin Month in Beacon of Creation.
Oh, there we go. All right. Well, speaking of February, we got our monthly challenge. In addition to You Make the Pack, we like to give people a chance to just submit a card for us to talk about on the show. It's a great way if you're just starting out, you want to, test the waters a little bit. This is a very gentle environment. We're not going to rate your design challenge submission or anything like that. We're just going to consider what you sent us, give some feedback maybe. But our February design challenge is called 4 weeks. February having 4 weeks. Design a card that can be cast one way for 2 mana and another way for 8. We've seen submissions already where you can cast it for other mana values as well. That's cool. But just make sure 2 and 8 are in there. And then our bonus points here, roses are red, violets are blue. Those 2 costs, so the 2 and the 8 costs, involve different colors. And then honey is sweet and so are you. Make some part of your card rhyme with itself. Or if you're really trying hard, the entire card rhyme with itself. And that's due February 28th. You guys submitted, I think, MW, you already submitted, and then I think, Cord, did you get a card in there yet?
Yeah, we're right next to each other in the submission list.
Oh, you're locked in. You locked in early, too. All right, early submitters. I like this.
I just realized why it's 2 mana and 8 mana. It's because there's 28 days.
Oh, right. Yeah, there you go. We also have all of our usual set channels, Crafted and Ignited, and some other people always working through their sets here. I think we're probably not that far away from Dragonstorm previews, and the preview channel is always a very exciting place to be. People riffing on new designs as previews come in. I think we're going to get a hint of the Final Fantasy set soon too. So it's good to have the channel where you can just read everyone else's reactions to all the crazy cards. That's like a very enjoyable thing. Like you wake up in the morning, there's already 10 comments in there, and you get to read all of them. So hop on the Discord for that. You can just lurk, and we're happy with lurkers too. But that's about it for our podcast for the week. Get on that Discord. That's where all the action is. You can also check out our website. But I also want to thank you two for coming on. Cord, you got anything you want to tell people about?
Yeah, I'm trying to complete my own custom Magic set this year, and so I've got all that on Egg MTG on our MSC site. You can find me everywhere at linktree/cord22 or just cord22 on any website you can think of.
There you go. What's the 22?
It's just my favorite number.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
M-Dub, what do you got?
I'm a little nervous. I've recommended this movie before.
Oh my god.
But I'm gonna recommend it again if I have, because it's that good. I just watched it again. It's the only movie I own a physical copy of for some reason, and I own the Blu-ray of, and it, like, watching it yesterday was like, oh my god, should I become a Blu-ray guy? Last of the Mohicans. I showed that to my girlfriend. I think I talked all the way through it, talking about how I was like, I think I told her, I was like, you better be, I hope you're really into colonial politics tracking in the eastern United States, and then people staring at each other longingly. If you like those three things, you'll like Last of the Mohicans.
You've seen it like 5 times?
Yeah. Oh, way more than 5 times,
Oh.
Tim. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
And like the colonial drama, I'm like all about. I'm like, so the colonial militia here, they only want to go here if they get this agreement. But that agreement, this general doesn't know about that because it was agreed over there. And he knows that they're breaking the agreement, but he's lying to the general. I'm like, yeah, I'm all about it.
All right. All right. Well, if you want to get in contact with us, Discord is the best place to do it. I think I just found out that we're all on, or at least Peter just got on Blue Sky. Is that correct?
At the beginning of this podcast, we were doing the pre-show, and I created my Blue Sky account. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Peter of Beacon. You can find me, Tim F. Riley, there on the Discord. Cord, you've got your whole link tree that we'll have in the show notes as well.
Yep.
And most of all, thank you for listening.
There you go.
Wait.
Oh, yeah, you've got your...
I put it away, too, early.
Oh, rip.
No, I have it.
Awesome.
Now I understand why that conversation was happening at the beginning. I'm like, why are we talking about melodica?